Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to NRIs. Today, we had some challenges in Instagram and Facebook. So, what we did is we posted a YouTube link on Facebook. So, if you're connected on Facebook with me, per se, you can always go to our YouTube channel and watch this live. But I do have Avanti Kondiliaji with me. And today, we are just going to take some very important questions. Those questions are absolutely related to your personal life. And the name and the title we have put today is The Marriage Unfiltered, the Real Ins and Outs, especially on foreign land. Since this show is all about NRIs and people who are connected with NRIs in some way and some form, um, we have posted this link on a different groups where people talk about their marriages so that they can also take advantage of some of the wisdom, some of the experience we are sharing here. If you know some people who can get benefit out of it, please do share the link. It's coming on Instagram Live, it's on Facebook Live, it's on YouTube Live, and it's on LinkedIn Live. Well, I am the host Kunal Jain, and I welcome all of you again on my show. This is the second part of our series Grasta Ashram, which I am going to have Avanti Kundalia invite and talk about it. Those who have joined this Instagram live, thank you so much. I am going to invite Avantiji right here very soon. Avantiji, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Namaskar. I'm good. How are you?
I know you were running around when I caught you, and you said, well, very busy teaching people, coaching people about life. And this is one of your favorite subjects. We always talk about it, how it goes, right?
Right.
So how have you been in last like almost 2 months? Our last show was 2 months ago, and we
Yes.
decided we are going to have show like every 30 days, but somehow we both got
I
busy.
think, I think we should have it every 30 days because
Yeah.
there is so much to discuss about life. And it's nice when you're talking to somebody who's on a similar wavelength and can understand.
Yes. And you know what? Our audience is also they're very interested to learn how you navigate their questions. So we took some questions from our last show. We are going to take these questions today, and then we'll talk about it. How when people they come up with certain situation, especially at a foreign land, what should they do?
Sure.
So one of my friends actually he was talking to me and he said that when you go through this situation, especially the divorce situation in your life, it's a longer process. No matter whether you are in a foreign land or you are in you are in India. So my question, I mean, of course, in India it's a very lengthy process. It's been like 4 months I moved here, and I was talking to some of my friends who are going through divorce process. Some people are like in divorce process for 10 years. Some people are in divorce process for 20 years. Can you believe? And then in 20 years, they got remarried, they have relationships, and they are living their life. Um, if I see the similar thing in US, yeah, people are waiting 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, but it's not as long as like 20 years like here in India. So a lot of people think like, is it divorce is a foreign concept or if it is an Indian concept. So a lot of people, even they always think that तलाक तो हमारे यहाँ पे होता ही नहीं है. हिंदू धर्म में तो तलाक है ही नहीं, शब्द ही नहीं है. तलाक is actually an Urdu word, and nikah is an Urdu word, and divorce is an English word. There is no word in Hinduism for talaq. So a lot of people even think in that direction, and they think that this is something a foreign concept. So first we have to break this myth and talk about this little bit. What exactly from the Hindu lens, from the Hindu perspective, talaq is, divorce is, and how people should take it when they are kind of get into this situation. Let's
Right.
start there.
So, like you mentioned quite rightly, talaq is not a Hindu word and neither is it a Hindu concept.
Uh-huh.
Because if you look at our marriage rituals, if you just go to our basic marriage rituals, we are walking hand in hand around the fire 7 times, saat fere. And Saath Fere is not only uh, 7 months, 7 years. It is 7 lifetimes that we are vowing to be with the same person, you know.
Yes.
Saato fere lungi मैं हाथों में लेके हाथ, you know, that famous song, that
Yeah.
7 जन्मों का साथ हम मांगते हैं. So that
Yeah.
starts with marriage itself. Then the second thing is year after year after year, women do Karwa Chauth or Vata Purnima pujas, which ask for a very long life of the husband. They fast for a very long life. Now, if you club both of these things together, you're asking for 7 very long lifetimes with the same man, you see.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's definitely not, it doesn't originate from our psyche. I think it's a very Western concept that we have gotten into. I mean, if you just look at the way we've evolved, even in India, you know, like before, I'd read something very interesting which said that somebody asked a grandma, how did your marriages last so good as compared to ours? So she said, because when things were broken, we didn't throw them out, we fixed them.
To fix them. And there is no concept of fixing the things now anymore.
Now there's no concept of fixing. You just,
uh,
anything breaks, you just chuck it out and replace it.
yeah.
So this concept is definitely not. We, even in the olden days, I've seen a lot of my, you know, ancestors far back as where they've been alive along with me. They've not had the romantic Shah Rukh Khan Kajol kind of weddings, you know, Dulhania Dilwale Le Jayenge kind of weddings. They've struggled. They've struggled on an individual level. They've struggled on a family level, but they've somehow made it work. And no, it was always beyond. नहीं बच्चों के लिए हमें साथ रहना है. They had a basic understanding of what marriage was. So I think they're just getting influenced by this नहीं चलता तो चलो फेंक दो दूसरा ढूंढते हैं और शादी नहीं करनी है हमें लिव इन करेंगे हम फिर देखेंगे 7 साल के बाद डिसाइड करेंगे जमता है या नहीं
ये बहुत हो
फिर
रहा है आजकल. This is very common. A lot of people are actually thinking of doing this, and then a lot of young population is actually moving towards it. इंडिया में
करेक्ट
भी लॉ भी अब उन्होंने कर दिया है. You can absolutely live into a live-in relationship and nobody can object it. A lot of
राइट
people started doing that. A lot of older women, I mean older men, younger women in US, same way both, and even in India also this has been happening. Is it more of a convenience for the life, or it is more for the love of the life? What do you think?
what the live in
Well, any kind of, whether live in or you're marrying or you're, it's like any kind of courtship or companionship. Now, where when we talk about past and like you're talking about grandmother, father, parents, and now in today's time, is it happening more for a convenience, or it is happening more for really like love, faith, trust, building a family together, living for sat janam, some kind of those, these things.
See, I think I mentioned this in our last talk that we are social creatures. We cannot be like hamsters on a wheel where we are just, you know, on a
On a
ring on our
systematic,
own. Yeah.
systematic life. Yeah.
We need to have social connections. We need to have a companion. Somehow that's inbuilt into our temperament, into the general human temperament. So people get married for various reasons. It could be they really want to have a family. It could be for financial security. It could be for pure companionship. It could also be, it is also driven by the need to be sexually involved with somebody. And from what we understand, even from the yogic perspective, it's not good to go having a sexual relationship with so many. So to even exhaust that basic human need, which is actually an animalistic need, uh, that whole concept of marriage kind of keeps it in very decent peripheries. It holds it within that. So there could be many, many reasons why we choose to get married. Now, live-in relationships, as I see, there are a lot of all this whole prenuptial agreements, and I don't know what is. It's becoming like a big
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
contract.
A lot of agreements have been
It's becoming like a contract. So I don't. I haven't yet trapped. I don't diss it because I don't know it, and I have young kids who tomorrow may go for that option. So I have no right to be judge and jury on such things. But I just feel that where there is no commitment or where there is no, decision to strive for something, to protect something, to uphold something, no matter what. I don't know how much that relationship holds, you know. And then again, there's that other view that no, but when you're not bound by a legal document, you
Right.
tend to have a more free relationship. And I've seen many, many people, in fact, one of my yoga mentors lived in with somebody for 20, 25 odd years. And I couldn't believe they were not married. They were
Yeah,
more than a married couple with each
yeah,
other. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's very hard to say just at the drop of the hat, but being an old traditionalist, I totally do believe in the institution of marriage. And like we discussed in our last talk, if it is done soch samajh ke, then you kind of have the bandwidth to hold through. You know, no relationship, even a friendship, bhai behan ka relationship, it goes through tests and trials. You just have to decide whether it's worth it. You know,
I know. And then when you like go through that divorce phase, 6 months, 1 year, the period you file a divorce, and by the time you are exhausted with money, you're exhausted with your all resources, and most important, time and effort and your energy into all, because that period is the most unproductive, negative period. People kind of they go through a painful journey, and it costs a lot. No matter whether you are in India, you are in US, or wherever you are in Singapore, anywhere. Plus, I mean, your life just takes 360-degree turn. And during that time, it happens quite a bit. You try to reconcile or you try to go back. And then, but your stars are not aligned. You somehow just don't get into that. Attorneys are in the middle, mediators are in the middle, families in the middle. Everybody wants to play their own role. And in between all of that, somehow that husband and wife or these spouses they get lost. And I don't know if you have that experience with somebody whom you know. How have you seen those people going back, reconciling? What is your experience, and what do you suggest to those people? Because that particular period is just like a dating period. Before marriage, you have a dating period for some time. The same way, while you are divorcing, unless you are fully divorced, it's another kind of negative dating, kind of a separation process. And that separation is very painful.
right. So basically, what I feel is that अगर डिवोर्स तक बात आ गई है, it depends at what stage in the marriage. Nowadays, the trend that I see, especially from people I know, is within 6 months to a year, they decide ये
For me,
चलेगा.
I saw this on a group. 1 year, this lady, she said, we let them go to US, and within 6 months they started fighting, and after 6 months he
Correct.
divorced, and
So
she is miserable now.
I'm seeing that a lot. In fact, just another day, my student was sharing with me of how somebody she knows, had this big destination wedding and all that stuff, and within 6 months, the kids had split up. So it depends on where the marriage is. I think these marriages that fall apart in 6 months were never meant to be, you
Right.
know, that bandwidth. So it's no question of reconciliation and all of that. But when a marriage has held through for a long time, you've reproduced children together, you've gone through the ups and downs. Many marriages, especially when you talk about our generation, that's
Correct.
actually gone abroad and set up from scratch. We've begun lives from scratch, and from that scratch, we've not only supported partners, but we've had children, we've raised kids. It's a long, arduous journey. You see, it's like climbing Mount Everest together. तो वो अपनापन होता ही है. What is sad, what I feel is that when we look at how the younger generation is operating and we try to walk out of these commitments with that psyche, when we don't really have that psyche, we are still holding that in our DNA, that we can't throw broken things, we try and fix it. So we are in a very confused state. I feel, where we see the younger generation doing it so quickly and we are kind of stuck. So we, when you talk about confusion, ki karu na karu, jao na jao, I think we should err more on trying to reconcile. And when you said something very interesting, that there are
Or
too
even
many
finding, yeah.
there are too many mediators in between family and all. There was a saying once upon a time which says when you marry a person, you don't just marry the person, you marry the family. But it's not like that anymore. You know, people have gotten into single unit families. We're not living in joint families. And in the end, it's the husband and wife that have to be together forever. I mean, even if you look at the lifespan of our marriage, the first span of the marriage is when we are building careers, putting together money, trying to set up a home. The second phase is we're raising the kids. Once that money and all is set up, businesses are set up, job is set up, your kids have grown up and gone, who's left? It's just you and your wife. There's nobody else, you see.
And that's where, the things start falling off, because if both are ambitious, both have their own career aspiration, then career plays a huge role. And sometimes it could be a powerful medium to connect them, or sometimes it just becomes disaster. I have seen most couples who are living separately, either due to their career choices they made after 20 years. Kids are gone, kids are in college, they're empty nesters. Now one person is, working somewhere North Pole, the another person is working somewhere in the South Pole. And they both say, hey, this works out great for us. We meet once a week or once a month. We are like weekend husbands and wives, and we go back to our work. And that kind of, it's like so is this something they are just trying to get away from the problem, or this is kind of a fix for the marriages which are on the verge of breaking?
See, I don't know. See, it's very confusing when you just state a scenario like this, because it might not necessarily be that the marriage is about to break. There are two things. It could either be that during the course of setting up careers and raising children, two people have just grown apart.
Right.
They've just distanced. Okay, so they have nothing left in common. So I
Is it
know of
a
so
natural
many.
process? Because that is where most people try to kind of struggle. Is it a natural process?
It's not supposed to be, but it is becoming like that more and more and more. That is what I instruct. I don't even teach, but I instruct all my students,
Hmm.
especially the newly married ones, that stay connected to your own swadharma and be supportive of the other person's swadharma. Apart from your regular duties and obligations and all that, make sure you'll connect over something. I mean, today when I look at my own marriage also, luckily I caught it in time where I realized that whenever we got together, we were only talking about the kids. We were only talking about job problems. When were we talking about ourselves? So when you are growing apart like that, and then suddenly one of the biggest responsibilities goes off your hands, that is the kids, you have gone and you're an empty nester, then you realize you have nothing in common. So the scenario that you have given, that both separate on the pretext of career, I would say is a very pleasant separation, because really, especially, whichever country you say, India, America, whatever, I think when a woman is free of her kids, when the kids are on their own, that is really the time where she starts finding herself. Like, what is it that she wants to do? Now, when you're connecting, you're on an NRI show, when you're connecting the Indian psyche with a foreign land. So we've been trained like that to be devoted to the family. Now we're living abroad. Now we see the freedom that is there to do, to engage in, and we don't have the kids on our hand. So it's very natural that when she starts finding herself, she starts getting a job or she finds some appreciation job. For a while, like you rightly said, it must be just to get away. Have you heard of sabbaticals? In the
Yeah,
olden days, men very freely took sabbaticals. One year
yeah, yeah.
sabbatical, 2 year sabbatical, they took from work and everything and just hopped off on their own. So why can't women also do that? And why can't men also do that for a while? So if it is a separation for career, I don't see anything wrong in it. In fact, I love the saying which goes, distance makes the heart grow fonder. So when you're
Okay.
thodi zara dur raho, productively occupied raho, then
Right.
when you come together later, you are just stronger together. you know
Right.
if the marriage itself is not working and you're finding career as an excuse and going apart, that's a different story altogether. That is not.
Lot of our friends when they talk about, they say कि तुम लोग अमेरिका चले गए, वहां पे तो डिवोर्स होना ही था, होगा ही, मतलब वो मान के चलते हैं कि अमेरिका इज अ कंट्री फॉर, बिकॉज 40-50% there is, the latest statistics which has arrived, 45% marriage, first marriage didn't work, 67% of second marriage doesn't work, 73% of the third marriage doesn't work. This is the
So let
latest
me
at
stop you
Google.
right there. Now, my
हाँ,
Vedanta teacher declares,
हाँ,
if you can't make the first marriage work,
yeah.
rest assured, no marriages after that are working.
It's not
And
working.
I'm not saying this because I don't want to be pelted with stones, but my 97-year-old Vedanta teacher declares this.
Yeah.
Like he always says that it is not who you meet in life, it is how you meet. Any person you are with, anybody. You could be married to Marilyn Monroe or you could be married to somebody from the street.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Each one has their own issues, and
Yes.
so do you.
Right. You have to figure out how to. So that makes a point. A lot of people, a lot of women say, "Oh, हम तो compromise कर रहे हैं." अब इंडिया में किसी से बात करो, हम तो सालों से compromise कर रहे हैं, भाभियों से, चाचियों से, ताइयों से, किसी से, अरे हम तो ये तो ऐसे ही हैं, हम तो पता नहीं कितने सालों से ऐसे कर रहे हैं, उनको झेल रहे हैं. Well, they give an impression that marriage exists because of the woman. Man has no contribution in the marriage at all in India. मतलब ज्यादातर लोगों से बात करके यही पता चलता है. तो
Um,
वो बार बार यही बोलते हैं कि is it a difference of a foreign land because you went to America that you are spoiled, your marriages are now destined to fail because you went there, you chose to give your freedom, you chose to give your wife freedom, you chose to enjoy freedom, you converted your needs into luxury. So ये तो होना ही था. इंडिया में रहते, फैमिली में रहते, हम लोग सब साथ में हैं. If you run into problem, your uncle can explain it to you, your parents can help you, you have free counselors available, your entire social kind of a stigma and social support and social pressure would not allow you easily to get away. So that question always remains in the mind whenever you talk to somebody, and especially in India, this is a very pertinent question. What do you think
you
about it?
you've given a lot of reasons why in India marriages last, but एक सबसे बड़ा reason जो you kind of put it somewhere in between, and I would
Ah,
say the only reason, लोग
yeah.
क्या कहेंगे.
Exactly. Social.
So social stigma is a driving force why people kind of stay together. And like you rightly said, there's a lot of support कि
Yeah.
पति से भी नहीं मना बना तो सासू से बनता है, देवरानी से बनता है, देवर से बनता है, किसी से तो बनता है. You're occupied your thing. Now abroad, you're totally on your own. It's just you and your husband, and who else do you have in that in that context. Also, you said one very interesting thing of women always taking the credit for the marriage lasting and saying that they compromise.
Yes.
Hand on your heart, ask yourself, is this not true for most of the cases? There's a very keen argument when Arjuna was refusing to fight the battle
Yeah.
for, because he didn't want to kill his loved ones. There was
Yeah.
a very keen argument that he gave is that if we kill all these men, then the women will be alone and they'll go astray. And the minute the women go astray, then everything will fall. The whole society will fall. So if
Yes.
you take this whole conversation back to the Bhagavad Gita, even,
Yeah.
you have to give that credit that generally for aeons, whether it's the ancient woman or the modern woman, by nature, she is that magnet or that fulcrum that keeps the family together, that
Yeah.
keeps the momentum going for the most part. I'm not saying all without exception, but for the most part, because you said sab bolte hai, tai bolti hai, chachi bolti hai, sab bolte hai. So
Yeah.
when you look at it that way, there is some truth to it. But the third part which you said about oh, you have given yourself this licentiousness of going abroad to America and you can just drop your. I don't think अगर संस्कार अच्छे हो खुद के, that America, Singapore, Canada can really influence what your basic upbringing is. And if it does, I think it's quite temporary because I've seen many people grow apart for a while and then come back even stronger.
See what
So,
happens when you said sanskar. See, people get sanskar when they are growing up like a child, right? You're being molded by your parents, your society you grew up, your school where you grew up. When you leave that country, go out of country, foreign land, you leave all those sanskars mostly there and it's forgotten. Because if you would have stayed there, people keep reminding you about those sanskars. But when you go, and that I have seen it, when you come to foreign land, we change. And over a period of time, our habits change. And when our habits change, of course, our sanskars, we forget those things. So all of these Gita ka Gyan, Mad Bhagavad Gita, or things which we studied while we were as a kid, it's very difficult to remember those things. Even people don't even remember seven vachans of Feras. I don't remember what was those. Hardly people remember one or two. I don't know. So, which is very practically possible. I think we should just accept it. People. I mean, we are all human beings. We tend to forget, and we kind of mold with the situation. Whatever the situation comes in front of us, we kind of take up that situation, and whichever is in our best interest, we accept it. So वो तो है कि मतलब what do you think? I mean, how one can we avoid that situation? I don't know.
so, I know lots of people all over the world. I have
Mhm.
myself stayed in
Yeah.
3 continents. I've been out of
Right.
India for 25 years. I've lived in the US for 10 years. I've lived in Singapore now for past 10 years. I have been in Australia for 5 years. I've known many, many families. So I beg to differ that inherent sanskars cannot be forgotten. Sanskar is your internal makeup. It is your mental temperament. Okay? It is has nothing to do with external influence. So even when we raise kids abroad, हमेशा ये माँ की चिंता होती है कि अब मेरा बेटा मेरी बेटी अकेले जाने वाली है बाहर कॉलेज में, क्या होगा उसका, उसके संस्कार बिगड़ जाएंगे का क्या. सो मेनी ऑफ माई टीचर्स हैव सेड इफ दो संस्कार हैव बीन ग्राउंडेड डीपली, वो नहीं हिल सकते, वो कुछ भी करके नहीं हिल सकते, दे विल बी स्ट्रॉन्ग. एंड टू डिफेंड दैट I have seen very, very solid marriages even abroad, across, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in India.
I
I'm
have
talking about
seen two couples which are fantastic. Yeah.
वेरी वेरी सब संस्कार वो इतने अच्छी तरह जीते हैं बाहर रहकर भी. सो इट इज नॉट अ वन रूल दैट ओ यू गो अब्रॉड एंड यू जस्ट बिकम वेरी फ्री एंड यू डू व्हाट यू वांट. आई डू अग्री दैट there could be temptations, there could be interruptions, there could be distractions. But like I said, even if there is a slight detour for a minute or two, not a minute, like for a few years or whatever, they tend to come back. They don't stay apart because they realize what the value is.
And that is where the problem is. So if somebody gets distracted, the other person or a spouse don't have enough patience to handle that situation in a way that one can wait for that person to come back, or that's where the ego comes in and they says मैं क्यों करूं जब वो उसको ही बिगड़ना था उसने ही ऐसा करना था तो who cares. And that becomes the constant fight that why one person would compromise.
One person doesn't need to compromise, but like if you really sit back and think, you have to take the whole picture, not just this one thing. उसने एक किया है तो ये throw this away or whatever. You have to take the whole picture. First of all, when we look at marriage, it's an evolving relationship. From absolute romance, it goes just down to somebody you can really relate to. Like my father-in-law used to always say that make sure, I always tell everybody, make sure you marry somebody you love to talk to. because in the end that's all that remains. Every marriage goes through that phase. Ye jawani hai diwani cannot be all your life. It starts dating and with maybe just like, again, my father-in-law used to say 7 years itch. In 7 years wo sab khatam ho jata hai, all that pyar mohabbat ishq. And it's funny because that's the time when people start thinking, oh, isse, it's this is coming to an end with my own spouse, so let me see if I can ignite it with somebody else. But
Ab-
rest assured it's going to die with that person also.
yes,
And
yes.
ये वाइफ के ये प्रॉब्लम्स है, 7 साल लगे टू गेट यूज टू दोज प्रॉब्लम्स, देन यू गो आउट विथ somebody else, again another set of problems. Whole life you're trying to handle different women or different men. Where are you going to put a stop to it? So when you understand that marriage is an evolving relationship, one person, one woman, or one man cannot fulfill all your needs. One man or one woman cannot be your movie buddy, your tennis buddy, your work buddy, your, you have to
Give
have
you
group of,
all the roles you want. Give so
you
it's yeah.
you
You're
have
right.
to have a group of friends that furnishes all your needs, but of course loyalty and all of that, fidelity and all, has to be maintained, sanctified within that
Within that
within the
framework.
context of marriage. Yeah.
So absolute uh, from romance to roles to responsibilities. Three
And
R.
companionship, it ends in companionship. So like
And
when, like
that
you,
turns into a companionship, right?
yeah, like
Romance,
in the end,
roles.
what is it? In the You start with, honey, you want to go for a drive. What does it end with? Honey, have you taken your pills?
Yes.
आपने दवाई ली है क्या?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ends with that. So you have to see कि नए 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 हम ढूंढते रहे तो वो हमारे ऐसे ख्याल रख सकते क्या?
सही बात है.
Somebody who has seen you conceiving children, delivering children, raising those kids, all of that. For a little bit of, and I'm not saying where there's severe cases where they're just not getting along, and I'm not talking about that. But I'm just saying that the way we are just walking out of relationships, we need to think of it, because if
You know
one
what?
person,
Yeah. The logic behind why now it's people are getting out of marriages early, they don't want to wait for 8, 10 years to develop the habit of that person, and then it turns out to be very ugly, and it could be like you will never find anybody else, you can never reboot your career. Whereas if you get out of relationship early, at least you have a chance to reboot your life second and third time if need be. That is, I think, one of the biggest reason why these youngsters are getting out of their relationships early, because they both understand if we stay together for a longer time, it's just going to make us more miserable. I mean,
then,
that's
then
what I. Yeah,
then if you look at it like that, then I think live-in relationships would make more sense, right? Rather
yeah.
than get the whole documentation of legal marriages and families' involvements and all
Not
of
only
that.
that, tons of money which their parents are pouring in a social just to maintain that social stigma कि
Correct.
आपने इस शादी में
Doesn't
पांच
make sense.
करोड़ लगाए, 4 करोड़ लगाए, 3 करोड़ लगाए, और फिर मालूम पड़े तुम्हारी शादी 2 साल भी नहीं चली, 3 साल. The whole fucking father is spent all of his savings for
Not
for
only
a wedding.
savings, what I hear, लोग लोन ले रहे हैं destination wedding के लिए, for
Exactly.
something that does not last. So you have to think about it, and I think we have to just wait and watch and see what happens with the next generation. Many of my friends say that institution of marriage may not remain in another 10, 15 years.
Yes, yes.
People are going to
I
be,
hear that all the time. I hear that all the time.
and that whole
Or
question again, are human beings supposed to be monogamous? Are you supposed to be till death do us part together? That whole question is being asked very strongly in society today, especially with the younger generation. But I guess we'll just have to wait and watch what they do.
that's true. That's true. It is very tricky these days the way things are happening, and people now they feel very proud to even say that, hey, I'm single again, or I'm divorced. And now there is no social stigma attached. I see it even in India.
You're a statistic if you are married now.
Yeah,
If you are married, then you are that odd statistic. Otherwise,
Right.
divorce is very, very common.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
divorce
yeah,
is very common. So
yeah.
we, I don't know how many more 25 wedding, 25th wedding anniversaries, 50th wedding anniversaries. My in-laws celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how many of that we're going to see going ahead.
yeah, 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 yeah. So we had these questions, and of course there are people who always like these groups. They go and vent out because in Facebook now, Facebook allows you and to post anonymous. So people put a lot of anonymous posts, thinking that they may find a free answer to something or a free counseling session, and which is not bad. A lot of people do that. What do you think about making your life public versus private when you go through this whole divorce process or separation process? Because a lot of people kind of have a very different views, and they kind of suffer in particular that period. Um, some people just goes under depression. Some people just goes for them it's fun. Some people, so it's all kind of people and different kind of outcomes. Well, what suggestion do you make? What suggestion you have?
See, if it doesn't only matter whether you're going through a divorce. I think any trauma in life, there are
Correct.
two ways to handle it. One is a very introverted way, where you are working through it uh, behind the scenes, trying to heal. And there's another way that is a very extroverted way, where by talking, by sharing, by putting it out there, it's kind of a healing mechanism. And in that, what happens is that you realize, because you get responses to what you're saying, you realize you're not alone. And also, what you make others realize that they are not alone. Your trauma becomes somebody else's manual of life. So you are, whatever you go through, what you learn, if you put it out
You
there,
connect with the other person, and the other person connects, and
so
then
they
kind of
also learn. So
power
if
of
it is,
groups.
if it is with that in mind, that yes, I want to heal and I want to help others with what I'm going through, I don't think making it public is wrong. But if you are going to be out there to just gather self pity, make a tamasha out of your spouse, and badmouth your spouse, I think that's little bit hitting below the belt, and it lacks dignity and grace. So it depends on what. But I know also of many people who don't breathe a word of this outside of their own houses. But they work very actively to see counselors. I think therapists work wonders, good counselors, and then also focus more on self care, taking care of yourself. I think that period is the best period to become your best self. A, to make your spouse regret that he or she ever wanted to divorce you. So, you look your best, you exercise your best, you eat your best, you really take care of yourself and let them feel that they've lost something really precious. And in
Yeah.
that process, you also start realizing your mistakes, and, you also
Right.
start getting a more clear headed vision about life, about relationships. But if you go all bitter about it from day one and just spend all your time in trying to sabotage the other, you're not going to attain anything. It's going to become more and more acrimonious as you go ahead. And it is just going to be a devastating, disastrous, uh, you know,
What do you think is the power of prayer in this whole entire process? Because both parties, whether a man or woman, they both go through such a disastrous time because they listen to their attorneys, they listen to their kids, they listen to their parents, each other, and this whole process of separation becomes kind of for some people it's just they go under depression. For some people it creates a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty actually impacts their work. That uncertainty impacts their relationship, even friendships with other friends. In some cases I have seen, I mean, people are just goes bankrupt because of that uncertainty, because of this legal fight. Where do you see one should take or become spiritual or turn into prayers? How can dharma help in this situation?
see, if you're first of all aligned with dharma, if you are spiritually on the path, on some path, any path, you would never bring your marriage to this disastrous ends. I'm not saying you would never divorce. I'm not saying you would never divorce. But
Right.
if you're divorcing, it would be a very mutual and dignified divorce.
वो
You
you
wouldn't,
you heard that right कि भगवान की याद जब ही आती है कि जब आप बिल्कुल आपके
no,
सामने कोई
one,
रास्ता नहीं रह जाता.
no, 1 second. Let me make myself clear. Because a spiritually, see, what is spiritually awakened? Spiritually awakened means, does not mean somebody with a big robe and some, big malas and all. Spiritually awakened is one who is very, very objective, who sees things as they are. So if
Right.
you're talking about a person in a marriage, very clearly you see this marriage is working or it's not working. If it's not working, you use your buddhi. There is manas, which is the mind, and there is buddhi, which is the intellect. So the
Which
manas, which is the mind, is that restless child in you that wants it anyhow, wants to destroy, wants to possess, wants to do whatever. Intellect is what sees, buddhi is what sees things as they are. And a spiritually awakened person will have a strong intellect, is objective, is able to see, that, okay, this marriage is not working. Let's end it most amicably in the most dignified manner, that we can. No spiritually awakened person is going to drag this into courts and fight till the last, you know
breath.
uh, till the last breath. It's stupidity. It's absolute. My ancestry, there's an absolute rule: die if you must, but don't take anything to court. Never climb the stairs of a court. You mentioned lawyers are saying something. No offense to any lawyers. One of my child is thinking of law and wants to become a lawyer, but look at it, they're mostly in for the money. Which lawyer is going to try and, like, there'll be very far and few in between who would say, okay, you know what, let's try and get an out of court settlement, let's finish this off. They're going to want to drag it as much as they can, and of course they're going to instigate. So if you're spiritually awakened, you're not going to fall trap to all the instigation from outside, you see. So when you talk
I
about what role does spirituality play, yes, you said कि भगवान की याद बड़ी मुश्किल में ज्यादा आती है, लेकिन कबीर का ही वो दोहा है, अगर भगवान का सिमरन हमेशा करो
हाँ
तो वो मुश्किल समय ही नहीं आएगा.
तो समय
So
नहीं आएगा.
instead of starting to become, it's a good time. If divorce, the Bhagavad Gita begins with Arjuna Vishada Yoga, which means
Yeah.
the yoga of Arjuna's grief. Arjuna's
Great.
grief is what made him seek wisdom. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you can just be aligned to dharma, can be aligned to our scriptures and all that, then ऐसी नौबत ही नहीं आएगी. And then when you're in it, you're asking me what's the role of prayer? Huge. Because where else can you get so much solace? And what is prayer, basically? What is prayer? You're just talking to that power. It's nothing more. You're talking to your highest conscience. You're talking to what you term as God. You're talking to that part of you which only wishes the best for you. So just being silent, being quiet, praying, talking to God or talking to your higher self, उसमें से कुछ solutions आएंगे ही ना. Instead of talking to हजार लोग, I'd rather sit in front of a murti and just, many times when we're just talking, solution मिल जाता है. We're not even listening to what the other person is saying.
It's the meditation when you give your own self some
Correct.
time. I
Correct.
get most of my ideas in the morning when I do 40 minutes meditation. That's the best time when you can be yourself and then I can think about creative ideas. So we're talking about the attorneys. I wrote one day देख उसने मुझे खत्म करने की बहुत सी साजिशें रची. उसने मुझे खत्म करने की उसने मतलब बोथ हो सकता है ना गर्ल और बॉय. उसने मुझे खत्म करने की बहुत सी साजिशें रची. ना तो मैं खत्म हुआ ना उसकी साजिशें बची. ना तो मैं खत्म हुआ ना उसकी साजिशें बची. हमारे सपनों की जमी पे वकीलों ने घर बना लिए.
It's true. This is what my ancestry, both sides, mom side and dad side,
हाँ.
insist. No court cases, no court, because it's like, it's the most vulgar thing that you can do for the family. I am surprised you're telling me divorces are going on for 10 years, 20 years. कहाँ का धर्म हुआ है ये? It
But
cannot be.
that
मैं तो बोल रही हूँ कि डिवोर्स करना भी एक बहुत सोच समझ के वो स्टेप लेना चाहिए. अगर वो स्टेप लिया है आजकल के जमाने में, इट इज अ वेरी कॉमन स्टेप. use dharma at least to end it with dignity and grace. What is it? I mean, what I don't understand how a man and woman can make their life's goal to destroy each other. It does not make sense on any level.
So
Nahi
Avanti,
padna to, thank you very much. Let me go my way, you go my way. Why would you destroy each other?
well, the problem is the system is like that, and especially at a foreign land, that let's say you split your 50-50, and if one person control the entire wealth, and other person has to fight to take some of it, because a person cannot go on the street. That's a practical way of looking at it. Now problem is, if the other person, one person out of two, is unreasonable, not ready to compromise, ready to die or ready to destroy the other person, that fight will just keep on going, and both side attorneys just keep on making fun of it. And then what happens, you get one problem, and then you try to solve that one problem, then you run into another problem, then you run into another problem. You just keep jumping from one thing to another thing to another thing, and until your entire life is just destroyed. That's how it is. It's a, what is it called, it's a domino effect. It is a domino effect because you are not able to think straight, you make wrong choices, you make wrong decisions, that one wrong decision triggers the another wrong decision, that triggers the another wrong decision. So that keeps on happening. And I don't know if anybody wants, nobody wants it deliberately. I don't want it, she doesn't want it, nobody wants it, but it just keeps happening.
If I, so this I don't subscribe to. If
Right.
you don't want it, she doesn't want it, he doesn't want it, then nobody can make you. You know,
I know,
you
but the situation is so bad that
that,
it is sometimes very difficult to come out of it. You have lawsuits going on, you have business things going on. You, as you said in the very beginning, when you marry two people, you are not just two of you. At least you have your own kids with you. Who's going to pay for the tuition for your kids? If you have to pay $500,000 to their tuition fee, they are going to the top colleges in United States. Who will decide who will pay what? Same thing, if you have employees, you have business, you have other things. As you said, responsibilities, roles, and everything just cannot just go away. And one person can say, okay, I'm leaving, Tata, bye bye. You live your life. It doesn't happen that way.
yeah. This is what I'm saying. No? This is where
Even if you want to.
this is where I'm saying the person lacks spiritual grooming,
Right,
lacks sanskar,
right.
lacks any alignment with dharma. Because if any of these were in that person's mind, maybe the marriage is not working. Maybe you actually have married the completely wrong person. But spirituality will not allow you to, for no rhyme or reason, grind that person into the ground. It's not possible.
We'll take just one more question somebody is asking, and that question was actually in my mind also, but I forgot to ask that. We have 48 minutes already out. A lot of people say that, आपने लड़की सोच समझ के शादी करी, लड़की ने लड़के को सोच समझ के शादी करी, शादी के 10 साल 20 साल 25 साल निकल गए। अब आपको होश आ रहा है कि शी इज नॉट कंफर्टेबल, अब आपको होश आ रहा है कि ही इज नॉट कंपेटिबल, या ही इज डूइंग इनफिडेलिटी, और शी इज डूइंग इनफिडेलिटी, और शी इज टर्निंग इनटू समथिंग लाइक अ डिजास्टर। आप 20 साल साथ में गुजारे, ये प्रॉब्लम्स पहले क्यों नहीं आई? ये चैलेंजेस आपने पहले क्यों नहीं देखे? 10 साल में देख लेते, पहले 3 साल में देख लेते, 5 साल में रेड फ्लैग्स तो दिखे होंगे ना कहीं ना कहीं। अब चूंकि आप दोनों अकेले हो गए हो, 20-22 साल आपके बच्चे चले गए हैं, जहां आपको साथ में रहना चाहिए वहां आप, यू आर जस्ट टर्निंग अवे फ्रॉम ईच अदर। So this is a very pertinent. A lot of people think, and I think it's a very valid question, कि जब आपको एक दूसरे का पता पहले 7 साल में लग जाना चाहिए था, 5 साल में लग जाना चाहिए था, 3 साल में आपको हैबिट्स तो पता चली जाती, ये भी पता चल जाता है ये कैसा है, मैं कैसा हूँ. But you have been enjoying the convenience of marriage. You have been enjoying the wealth you have created together. You have been enjoying the whole house and everything, all kind of materialistic wealth you have done together. And now, since you both have a kind of certain amount of wealth, you can think that you can fight with each other. So that's the kind of thing which comes to my mind and some other people's mind who are at a level where this thing is going on.
So you've mentioned two things. They're two entirely different things. One is compatibility and one is infidelity. Okay.
Right.
Now you have to understand two human beings are coming together, not two robots, not two machines. Now to
Correct.
even AI is evolving with time. Human beings का development अलग अलग होता है. One person matures. I'm not even talking gender roles, I'm just talking in general. One person can mature, can evolve much faster than the other. Even in friendships, अब जो मेरी best friend थी when I was small, if I meet her now, there's nothing in common. We couldn't live without each other at all. We were at each other's houses. But if I meet them now after many many years of living a very different life experience, then there's nothing in common. Now
No, no.
especially when you talk about, one second, especially when you talk about marriages abroad,
Right.
when you're abroad, it's just the two of you. And two
Right.
of you are not together 24 hours. You are doing different things. So the influences that you all are surrounded by, though you have common friends, make you start developing very differently. That is why in those developmental stages, it's very, very important to keep being connected on common grounds. If you're not connecting on common grounds ki chalo every Saturday we will do movie night, every Sunday we will go out to eat, not just because it's a tradition, because we want to spend each time with each other, date, whatever it is, then you will see that that compatibility becomes less and less and less and less, and it is completely wrong to say पहले नहीं दिखा, पहले दिखता नहीं because पहले आप compatible थे, but life and your life experiences have changed you in a different way. For a woman to raise kids abroad is a very different experience than a woman raising kids in India. So, what does that do to her psyche? Maybe she feels stifled. Maybe she feels, chained. Then she just wants her freedom, suffocated. So that is so compatibility cannot. It can evolve.
तो इसमें
That does
किसी का दोष नहीं है, इसमें इसमें कोई ग्रीड नहीं है, इसमें कोई, इट्स नॉट
कुछ
लाइक
नहीं.
समबडी ट्राइंग टू, इट्स जस्ट अ नेचुरल प्रोसेस।
Correct.
उस समय आपकी
इसमें
प्रायोरिटी, जब आपकी शादी हुई तब हनीमून आपकी प्रायोरिटी थी, आज आपके पास में रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है विच यू डोंट वांट टू बियर इट, सो दैट्स योर प्रायोरिटी।
करेक्ट. एंड उसमें क्या होता है, दिस इज वेयर वी फॉल इन ट्रैप when we
या
think that we are not compatible with our spouse, or we've lost that common ground where we don't have very much in common anymore. We tend to think कि वो spark, वो magic, वो excitement हमें किसी और में मिलेगा. Okay, this is where that very special word infidelity comes in. It starts creeping in, because we've lost that connection with our own spouse. We think sparking it with another person completely out of context. But now you have to remember one thing, is that ये spouse के साथ हमने पूरी जिंदगी बनाई है. We have gone through all the ups and downs. We've seen the Rudra roop of the spouse, and we've seen the angel Devi roop of the spouse. Or God, man or woman, whatever it is. We've seen the best and the worst. Now, when you step outside of that boundary, thinking that that lost magic that you have, experienced here, you're going to find with somebody else, in the initial phase, it will always be both of you putting your best foot forward. At a later stage in life, you are not struggling for your bread butter, you're not struggling to make a house, so वो सब problems नहीं होते. So you feel that हाँ, this is it, ये छोड़ना है और इसके साथ रहना है. But lo and behold, old age, middle age has its own problems. So जरा जिंदगी बीतेगी, then you'll start seeing the Rakshas Rudra Rupa of that new person also that you've been with. So it's there's no escape. You see, everybody has their pits and their falls. So now you have to decide. I'm talking about long-standing marriages that are looking at divorce. You have to decide. Ki I've gone through hell and back with this one relationship and still managed to create something beautiful. Businesses, work, children, whatever. Do I have the bandwidth to restart again with somebody else? So coming back to the first question that you had asked, then does it make sense to reconcile, to accept my faults, her faults, his faults, reconcile and understand what our limitations are and make the best of it? Or then stay alone? You gave me the statistics of second marriage failing, third marriage failing. Why get yourself into that? Why when you एक बार कॉट की सीढ़ी आपने चढ़ी है फिर से दो बार तीसरी बार it's stupidity, it's
Yeah,
absolute colossal madness. Krishna would like shoot an arrow and say no mood a matha, like absolute fool. I mean there can't be a greater fool, right?
yeah.
So
इसीलिए
these
हिंदू धर्म में तलाक नहीं है.
Exactly. So this is what we have to think. And what
Yeah,
we keep saying now, olden days में compromise किया. No, not compromise. It's common sense. कि
yeah,
किसी भी हम जब बाई रखते हैं, काम वाली बाई रखते हैं, किसी एक बाई के साथ नहीं बनता, ओके, तो हम वो बाई छोड़ देते हैं, दूसरी बाई ले आते हैं. दूसरी बाई के खुद के दूसरे प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. फिर हम सोचते हैं ना वो पहले वाले बाई के प्रॉब्लम्स और ज्यादा अच्छे थे, ये तो कुछ और ही है. It's the same with any relationship, you see.
yeah.
Everybody is going to come with a set of problems and a story of its own. So you have
That is
to be
my
very
favorite
wise to
statement.
decide.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
you have to be wise to decide. Either reconcile or stay alone. Stay alone for long till Shiva himself comes and gives you some bride or, and says, ha, this is meant to be or whatever. But these rebound relationships that you're getting into, all the time, ek se dusre, dusre ke teesre.
Yeah. Somebody, Dr. Singhal, Shalini Singhal said, it's common sense, not compromise. So well said. So people are reading it. Yeah,
No,
that's true.
no, really, this is what I'm saying. It's common sense. And one more thing I wanted to say, you talked about something where a partner doesn't understand. You
Right.
have to be really, really evolved to understand those passing infidelity phases in life. It is not coming so much from viciousness. It is not coming so much from wanting somebody else. It is just when somebody feels so empty within that they seek that love, they seek that understanding from somebody, which sadly your own spouse is not able to give you at that point. But there have been many, because I do counseling and stuff, there have been many instances where one person steps out for a little while, and looks for a relationship and very quickly realizes that no, even the other person can't give them that. You have to find it within yourself,
See,
you know.
problem हो नहीं होती. You see that person who does that. That person knows what he does.
Yeah.
How that your spouse perceives you at that point when she comes to know or he comes to know, and at that time, forgiving attitude or forgetting attitude is a big deal. Person
It
is not able to forget or
it's
forgive
not
himself.
not
But
easy, but you need to be highly evolved, empathetic. हाँ, अगर वो man Casanova है or that the woman is completely promiscuous, that's a different thing. But when come on, you talk about 20-year marriages, 25, you know your man, you know your woman. If you
yeah,
empathize enough, if you identify enough, and एक कोई गलती हो जाए, भगवान हमारी कितनी गलतियां होती है जिंदगी में,
सही बात.
भगवान हमें कितनी माफ करते हैं. सो आई मीन आई टेल यू वन वेरी क्विक वेरी स्वीट स्टोरी. इट आई मीन इट्स अ बिट ऑफ एन एक्सट्रीम बट अपेरेंटली इट्स अ ट्रू स्टोरी. मुंबई में हुई एक स्टोरी है कि देयर वाज अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल डिवोटेड वाइफ टू अ यंग मैन. ओके, adored the man, he also adored her. They had a very nice marriage. Now these people used to live in the suburb, and the husband used to have an office in the city, in the main Mumbai city. So he used to travel back and forth every morning. He used to go there every evening. Then the wife started noticing that he's coming later and later. After many years of their marriage, he's coming later and later and later. And then because he used to come so late, the driver used to refuse to wait. So then he used to drive back really late. So वो 12 बजे का 1 बजे हो गया, 1 बजे का 2 बजे हो, 2 बजे का 4 बजे हो गया. ऐसा होता रहा. And many times she used to see that he's coming a bit having drunk alcohol and all that. So she told him, the wife told him, and she felt that यहाँ कुछ चक्कर चल रहा है, she had a feeling. She adored him so much. She said, look, आप बहुत देर से आते हो, इतनी लंबी ड्राइव है, खुद ड्राइविंग करके आते हो, बहुत दिन आप कुछ पी के आते हो. Why don't you just stay where you're going? Why don't you just stay with her
मॉर्निंग में
and
जब हाथ टूटे तब आना.
come in the morning? Okay.
Yeah,
Apparently, just her saying that with that level of understanding
understanding. वो फिर अपने आप
changed him
back.
completely, and they turned out to be the most devoted couple to each other throughout. इसमें
True.
क्या है, you might have missed one very important thing: confidence in yourself.
Correct.
Knowing in yourself, whether you're a man or a woman, knowing within yourself.
तो सुबह आ जाना फिर अब क्यों
नो,
फिर क्या
knowing
करना।
within yourself कि मेरे जैसे है ही नहीं जो इसको संभालेगी. I am the best. You know, there is
तो वो
nobody better than me.
बहुत लोग कई बार वो कॉन्फिडेंस जो है ना वो शेक हो जाता है, और फिर जब वो शेक होता है तो साथ में भी रहते हैं तो दे काइंड ऑफ दे ग्रीव फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम, सो इट टेक्स लॉट ऑफ टाइम। एक्चुअली इट्स अ गुड सब्जेक्ट, we will take one full session on that, how to grieve. How to
Yes,
grieve, we'll do
yes,
it
yes.
next time. Well, thank you so much, though. We had a great session today, and those we are going to put some real short questions on Instagram, you will know it. But thank you so much, Avantika ji, thank you so much. We'll have another session very soon. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. So this was it. This was our session on. This was a second in the series. I will continue to have more sessions with Avantika ji. I know you guys love her, so we'll have more sessions in coming time. Thank you very much for attending it. Keep sending me your messages. Keep sending me your questions, and we'll take those questions as and when our guests arrive. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of the evening.